I recently started playing Chained Echoes, and added with the release of Octopath Traveler 2, I started to wonder, what happened to JRPGs? JRPG stands for Japanese role-playing game. However, that's not always enough to be considered one. There's no exact definition for how to describe a JRPG. I'll try my best though. They have a fixed story with some small derivations you can take to change things up. Turn-based combat is prevalent, and the exploration of the world is important to give you a sense of freedom in normally pretty linear games. All JRPGs are RPGs, but not all RPGs are JRPGs, if that makes sense. They don't even have to necessarily be developed in Japan to be classified as such. Dark Souls was made in Japan, however it doesn't really fit the style of a classic JRPG, therefore it's not classified as such. On the contrast though, a game developed in the US could be given that title as a response to the influences and style the game involves. The decline of big-name JRPGs is easy to see. For example, if you search up the top 10 JRPGs and look through the lists, you'll find all the games you'd expect, from Earthbound, Chrono Trigger, Pokemon, Final Fantasy, and Fire Emblem. Thing is, all these games that are hailed as some of the best of the genre came out so long ago. Earthbound came out in 1994, Chrono Trigger in 95. The Pokemon games have been consistently declining in quality, with the last few releases being terrible. Final Fantasy has heavily moved away from the classic style that made them popular, with Final Fantasy 16 releasing this year being real-time action focused. Fire Emblem has remained true to its JRPG roots, and Three Houses released in 2019 received an 89 on Metacritic. The last JRPG that captivated me was in 2019 with Octopath Traveler. Created by Square Enix, it really felt like they took everything that made the games of old so lovable and improved upon it. Mixed in with its powerful OST and stunning graphics, this game made me gain a whole new respect for this genre. The industry has moved heavily into the open-world RPG and FPS styles of games in recent years, and JRPGs are starting to be less focused on within each year. The best games released in recent time have been by indie studios, and while it's amazing that they're being kept alive, it's a shame more major developers don't focus on creating these games. JRPGs have always had a certain style associated with them. They were either pixel art or really cartoony. However, with time and the evolution of graphics, these games have started to become more and more realistic. This point is highlighted by the release of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a hyper-realistic game that still tried to incorporate points from the anime influence. While these progressively better-looking games are beautiful, I feel the realism is too much and takes away from the charm and how well these games will be remembered. With so many games being released these days where the graphics are insane and super intensive to run, they sort of blend together. Hyper-realistic games aren't bad in nature, but they're way less memorable. Every year, more and more games get released that try to become faster and faster. There's been a developing fixation on quick reaction time gaming and having to be as optimized as possible. The increased popularity of speedrunning has helped push this fixation forward, and especially with the younger generation's love for games like this, a long-winded turn-based game is completely different than that of the past. Gaming has become less and less about the enjoyment of the game, or using your head, or even playing casually. Instead, almost every game has a battle pass that ends by a certain date to try and push people to play more. Outside of the competitive genre, games still maintain a high pace, with games like Dead Cells, which is amazing might I add, where you have to be super precise and can't play the game safely. It's no secret that JRPGs are a massive time sink. The last Dragon Quest game takes 80 to 100 hours to complete. Fire Emblem Three Houses takes 80, Octopath Traveler 2 is about 60, and Chained Echoes is also right at the 60-hour mark. This is a complete contrast to the current trend of the high-paced games. Less and less people these days enjoy playing 60 to 100 hours of a video game that won't always be super engaging or intense. The length of these games are what helps turn them into masterpieces though. JRPGs are released packed full of content and give you so much stuff to complete that it's almost impossible to feel dissatisfied when you finish the game. In the West, the interest levels in JRPGs are at an all-time low. There's no way around it. With all the reasons above, among others, it's hard to grow interest in a style of game that the majority of people, especially among the younger generations, will find extremely hard to get into. Even when a game has a massive interest level, it falls off tremendously over a rather short period of time. These games need to be perfect in order for the West to start falling back in love with them. From the story, soundtrack, environments, fluidity of the gameplay, character design, and exploration, it all needs to be as perfect as possible if there's any hope of this beautiful genre coming back to the spotlight in the time to come. You should try a JRPG if you haven't. You should also hit that subscribe. These games are amazing experiences from start to finish. They take place in these ultra creative, wacky worlds, have deep themes and meanings within them, and are beautifully woven together with an empowering and emphatic soundtrack that enhances the experience of playing tenfold. I'd highly suggest playing a game like Chained Echoes or Octopath Traveler, whose sequel is being held in even higher regard than the first, or go and play one of the classics that established the feel of this genre as a whole so many years ago. They're less and less popular these days as they completely contrast the current trend of gaming, but the classics have stood the test of time and continue to have a loyal audience year after year, even if the quantity has gone down tremendously. Thank you for watching. To close out this video, I just wanted to say thank you. I received a lot more support on that last video than I ever thought I would on any video, and it really meant a lot. It's made me more motivated than ever to keep working at this, and I'm going to continue in the future to try and put out better and better videos every single week so that you guys have some content to enjoy. Thank you for all the nice words you left in the comments, and I really do hope you enjoyed this video.